I mean, the title Luxury versus Obligation comes actually from an article that was written in the end of the 19th century in a Jewish journal in Paris. And what it says in there is, loosely translated from the French, is that permanent burial, which is in the Jewish tradition an obligation, has become a luxury because of the financial strains that perpetual permanent burial had come to mean at that point. So because of the high prices for permanent burial, the fact that Jewish tradition requires permanent burial really didn't matter anymore. They had to default to what the state was regulating them for. So you could have a temporary concession, which would last up to 15 years, or you could have a perpetual one, which in theory should have been permanent. But the price difference was really, really large. So really only a small portion of Paris's population could have ever afforded this perpetual burial status. In 1809, you open a Jewish section in Père Lachaise Cemetery, for example, which was kind of a bit of a compromise because the Jewish community wanted their own space, but they're now facing this public cemetery. So they got their own space, but they weren't able to work around the pricing regulations for the duration of burial. So that's where things really start to shift. By the end of the 19th century, you have this charity organization, the Society of the Eternal Rest, that crops up to specifically solicit funds to pay for perpetual burials for those who cannot afford to have them. And it's funded by big names like the Rothschild family, and they're donating thousands of francs to support the purchase of these plots that could fit up to 18 people. And basically be a permanent resting place as if it were a family chapel. And then they sell the plots within those spaces off for really reduced prices, or in special cases, they give them away for free as well. Wandering through places like Père Lachaise, which are huge spots of land within the city, really rural areas. They don't even look like they're part of the city anymore. They're almost completely separate. And you're walking through and you get this map when you arrive, and it points you to all the famous graves that you have to see and check off your list. But then while you're walking around, you notice there's all these smaller abandoned tombs lying around. And especially in the Jewish section of the cemetery, there's a lot of overgrowth. A lot of the monuments just aren't maintained very well. And you notice also these little signs next to a handful of graves, and those are the abandoned ones. And what they do is they say basically that monument is under consideration for return to the state. So they have 3 years to find the next of kin of that person. And if they don't find that person, then they can remove the monument and the grave. I don't think that's going anywhere. And it's become part of a French sort of understanding of how people are buried. We don't, in the United States, we think, oh, we purchased our plot, it's ours, we own it. And we don't really expect to move. But, for over 200 years, more or less, that's been how French burial customs are. So there's really there's no concern that it's not the way things should be.